Sun Princess is very different compared to other princess ships and very confusing. If you're used to Royal or Grand class ships, there's a huge learning curve when it comes to the layout. The buffets move to the middle of the ship. A lot more venues and services are clustered in the piazza area, with other services normally in the piazza now on lower decks, surrounded by cabins. In this episode of the Chill Cruiser, it's Sun 101, a guide to the many changes from a layout perspective to help you get oriented faster. If you're booked on Sun Princess or considering a Sun Princess cruise, you're not going to want to miss this. Hey cruisers, Andrew from Ottawa, Canada here. Welcome to the Chill Cruiser, where I review cruise ships from a chill perspective. I'm coming to you from Sun Princess, which has been my home for the last several weeks. This is a very different ship compared to every other class of ship in the Princess fleet. Grand and Royal class ships share a similar approach to venue placement, but on Sun, it's very different and it can take a long time to get your bearings. I'll keep this video as matter of fact as possible, but I will just warn you up front that this is the clumsiest design ship of the 30 plus ships I've sailed on, and the layout is very confusing. Even though it's the biggest ship in the fleet, many key venues are smaller, and in the case of guest services and the spa, move to odd places surrounded by cabins. Princess hasn't helped matters much with very poor signage throughout the ship. I've been on board for several weeks and I still find myself getting lost every now and then. I'll walk you through the biggest changes so that if you sail on Sun, you can spend less time getting oriented and more time enjoying your cruise. Since Sun is 23% larger than Royal class ships from a tonnage perspective, with 2 more decks, the locations of the 3 major gathering places on the ship have changed. The piazza is now decks 7, 8, and 9. The Lido area spans decks 17 and 18, which includes the new dome complex. And the main dining rooms are all now stacked on top of each other at the back of the ship on decks 7, 8, and 9. I'll go through the changes in more detail by the categories I use in my ship reviews, like food, amenities, and entertainment. Note that all of these changes are for sailings from October 14th, 2024 onward. Princess is in the middle of making major changes to the restaurants on the ship in preparation for the October launch of the Sanctuary Collection. Let's start with access. Sun features a new multi-deck embarkation bridge that can be raised or lowered to accommodate different ports, allowing you to embark and disembark in the same area on deck 4 more often. There's also a lounge beside the security screening area so you can relax after a long day in port or while waiting for your travel companions to arrive. One big change that loyal Princess cruisers will notice is that decks are no longer identified by names like Baja or Emerald. They're now just deck numbers. So cabins are now identified completely by numbers instead of starting with the first initial of a deck name. This takes away some of the character of Princess ships that I always appreciated, especially in the elevators where an English voice announced each floor name with a bit of flair. My favorite was how she announced Baja Deck, which always made me smile.
Deck 11, Baja.
Speaking of elevators, there are 3 large elevator banks in the forward, middle, and mid-aft sections, with an extra 2 glass elevators at the very back of the ship that offer a beautiful view during the ride. Sun has a new and much improved elevator system that directs you to an elevator based on where you're going. Instead of pushing an up or down button in the elevator lobby, you enter your desired floor, and the display directs you to a specific elevator that's going to that floor. This has significantly decreased wait time and crowding. Note that there are 2 major dead ends on the deck plan. If you take the aft elevators to the 18th floor, you can only access the Sanctuary Sun Deck. If you take the mid-aft elevators to deck 6, you can only access the deck 6 dining room. To get to any other venues on either floor, you'll need to go to another floor, cross, and then go back up or down. It can also get confusing trying to figure out which side is odd or even when arriving at your cabin's floor from the elevator or stairwell. There are no signs, the carpets aren't color-coded, and the stairwells don't all face the same direction. The only system I figured out is that if you're in the forward or aft stairwells, which face aft, odd cabins are on your left and even cabins are on your right. If you're in the middle stairwell, which faces forward, odd cabins are on your right and even cabins are on your left. Cabin door decorations can also help you identify the side you need. Princess has introduced several changes on Sun from a cabin and cabin amenities perspective. Guests in Sanctuary Collection cabins get access to several amenities at the back of the ship, including the Sanctuary Sun Deck and a private restaurant. Full suite guests can access a 2-deck observation lounge on decks 15 and 16. Cabana cabins on deck 9 have balconies that overlook a private sun deck and hot tub. Food is the area with the most changes on Sun, and they're in the middle of making even more changes to prepare for the launch of the Sanctuary Collection on October 14th. The buffets moved from the Lido deck to the top floor of the piazza on deck 9 with an American diner in the aft section. Surrounding the buffet is a large, partially covered wraparound promenade with lots of cozy lounge chairs and tables, with a pizza station on one side and a burger station on the other, with bars available on both sides. This is in addition to the usual pizza and burger places by the main pools on the Lido deck. Princess also expanded the fast food options around the pool, with stands also dedicated to tacos and salads. The main dining rooms are now stacked on top of each other on decks 6, 7, and 8, with the space on 8 dedicated to Sanctuary Collection guests. The International Cafe, which serves light meals and desserts, has moved from the lowest floor of the piazza to the highest floor on deck 9, just outside the starboard entrance to the buffet. There are also several more places to get specialty coffees and gelato on deck 7 and 17. There are several casual and specialty restaurants within the piazza complex, or just off of it. With Sun, Princess located only casual restaurants in the open-air piazza and placed specialty restaurants within enclosed spaces so that events in the piazza don't affect the specialty ambiance, which was an issue on several Royal-class ships. Within the open complex is Alfredo's, the pizza restaurant, and the sushi restaurant. The Catch and Teppanyaki specialty restaurants are in enclosed spaces just off the piazza on decks 7 and 8. Butcher's Block by Dario is on deck 7 forward. The Crown Grill Steakhouse is on deck 7 aft. The Italian specialty restaurant Sabatini's is on deck 8 aft. And Love by Brito is sort of hidden away on deck 17 aft, with a beautiful wake view. Princess also changed its approach to bars on Sun. Princess ships usually have several cozy enclosed bars and lounges scattered throughout the ship. On Sun, most bars are in open spaces in the large piazza complex, except for 2. Good Spirits, which has a small space that's sort of hidden by the theater on deck 7, and O'Malley's, that's down the hall, also on deck 7. The large multi-purpose space Vista Lounge, usually found at the back of the ship, wasn't brought over to Sun, which has made finding appropriate venues for large events like the Captain's Circle Elite Lounge and the cocktail parties very difficult. On my cruises, they hosted the Elite Lounge in the main dining room in the middle of the afternoon, and the cocktail party in the Dome, which did not work very well. Moving on to amenities, where most venues are in the usual locations. There are 2 main pools located in the middle of the Lido deck 17. The adults-only retreat pool and sun deck is in the forward section of the same deck in front of the Dome, with a small section of the pool going into the Dome structure. The Dome is a very comfortable air-conditioned solarium-style sun deck in the day, but it's not always open. On days when there's an evening Cirque performance, they kick everyone out of the Dome to start an elaborate setup process around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. The best way to access the Dome is from the forward elevators. The signage isn't the best, so you have to walk forward, turn a corner, and keep walking down a nondescript corridor before you reach the Dome complex. The aft pool is located on deck 8, behind the Sanctuary Collection restaurant. The promenade, which is on both sides of the ship on deck 9, goes from the middle to the aft and then goes down 1 level to wrap around and meet on deck 8. The Sanctuary is now a large sun deck with a pool and bar that's available only to Sanctuary Collection guests and is located at the back of the ship on deck 18. The gym is also on deck 18, overlooking the main pool beside the salon section of the spa. In an unusual move, the main spa is now located 11 decks below on deck 5 and 6, surrounded by cabins. Princess had planned to have a family activity complex called Park 19 on decks 19 and 20, but it couldn't get safety certified, so it's been closed since the ship started sailing in the spring of 2024, with the exception of the jogging track surrounding the complex and a lounge area. On this cruise, they blocked off the entire deck to dismantle the Park 19 venues and equipment. According to the deck plan, the space is going to be converted to a sports court complex by October 14th, 2024, and I imagine it'll be very similar to the one you can find on other Princess ships. Let's take a look at the entertainment venues on board. The main theater is still located at the front of the ship on the lower and middle floors of the piazza on decks 7 and 8. It's the smallest theater I've seen on any Princess ship, which is unfortunate since this is the biggest Princess ship in the fleet. So getting a seat for production shows at guest entertainers can be a huge challenge. On my current cruise, people started lining up 1 to 2 hours early to get seats. Note that on my most recent cruise, in addition to the usual 2 shows on one night, they added a 3rd show on the following morning or afternoon, but they didn't communicate it very well, so the first 2 shows were still over capacity, with people standing and sitting on stairs. Princess Live, which is the multi-purpose lounge used for game shows, comedians, and presentations, is now on the lower floor of the piazza on deck 7. It's unfortunately located right beside the performance space for the piazza, so events in Princess Live in the evening can get drowned out by the party band. The dome on decks 17 and 18 forward transforms into a performance venue on some nights with dancers and acrobats. Demand also usually far exceeds available seats in this space as well, so you usually need to arrive and line up no later than 30 minutes before the performance to get a seat. An hour or more before if you want a seat that isn't obstructed. The casino is in its usual spot in the middle deck of the piazza between the piazza and the theater. Last but definitely not least, let's take a look at services where everything has changed. Guest services is now one deck below the piazza complex on deck 6, forward, surrounded by cabins. The area is very small, so the elevator lobby doubles as the space to line up. Shore excursions and future cruises are now located across from each other on the upper floor of the piazza on deck 9. The shopping areas are now stacked on top of each other on decks 7 and 8, in between the piazza and the main dining rooms. After several weeks on board, I've been able to put all the changes on Sun Princess to the test. Hit subscribe so you don't miss my upcoming videos exploring the many hits and misses on this new ship, as well as my full ship review. In the meantime, you can find my video with first impressions of Sun here. Thank you for watching, and happy cruising.